The walls of the royal family are shaking again, but this time the danger is not coming from the palace, the tabloids, or even the monarchy itself. It is coming from a man Meghan Markle thought she erased forever. A man who stayed silent for 13 long years while watching his entire past get rewritten on global television like he never existed. And now that silence has exploded into something so devastating, so deeply personal, that people close to Harry reportedly believe this could become the single most catastrophic scandal attached to the Sussex name yet. Meghan Markle built her entire public image around reinvention. The self-made outsider, the misunderstood actress, the woman who supposedly stumbled into royalty by pure accident. But according to Trevor Engelson, the man who spent 7 years loving her before Prince Harry ever appeared in the picture, that image was never the full truth. Not even close. And the details now surfacing are making people look back at every interview, every documentary, every emotional speech with completely different eyes. Because Trevor is no longer speaking like a bitter ex-husband. He is speaking like a witness who remembers every uncomfortable detail Meghan hoped the world would never connect together. People still cannot get over the way their marriage ended. Not because celebrity divorces are unusual, but because the cruelty of it felt almost unreal. Trevor allegedly receiving Meghan's rings through a FedEx package became the kind of Hollywood story people whisper about years later because it sounds too cold to be true. No emotional goodbye, no final conversation, just a package arriving like a business transaction. And according to people close to Trevor, that moment changed him permanently. It was not heartbreak anymore, it was realization. The realization that maybe the marriage had become transactional long before it officially ended. But what is terrifying royal watchers now is not the divorce story. It is what Trevor allegedly remembers happening before the wedding even began. Reports claim Meghan presented a pregnancy-related agreement before marriage, laying out financial expectations tied to maintaining her appearance and career image if children entered the picture. The details sounded less like two people preparing for family life and more like a carefully managed corporate arrangement. Friends reportedly laughed at first because they assumed nobody could possibly be that clinical before a wedding. Then they realized she was serious, and suddenly the entire relationship started looking different through hindsight. That is where the story becomes darker. Because according to multiple accounts, while Trevor believed he was building a normal marriage, Meghan was allegedly building an entirely different world behind the scenes. A separate network, powerful people, billionaires, elite gatherings Trevor reportedly knew nothing about. The kind of circles where influence matters more than love and ambition matters more than loyalty. Friends from that era claim there were moments Trevor genuinely had no idea where Meghan actually was, despite believing they were communicating normally as husband and wife. Tiny lies, tiny gaps, tiny inconsistencies, the kind that do not seem dangerous individually until years later when every missing piece suddenly forms a pattern. And maybe that is why Trevor's silence became so explosive. Because he rebuilt his life quietly while Meghan became globally famous. He remarried, had children, found stability. Meanwhile, Meghan's version of history kept growing bigger and bigger while Trevor's entire existence disappeared from public memory almost completely. Imagine watching someone erase 7 years of your life with a smile on international television. Imagine hearing the woman you once loved describe herself as completely alone before Harry while you remember every sacrifice you made for her career, every flight, every compromise, every moment you stood beside her. That silence did not vanish. It fermented. Then came 2026, and according to reports, something finally snapped. Trevor allegedly watched Meghan speaking once again about her past as if huge portions of it simply never happened. That was supposedly the moment he decided he was done protecting secrets that were never protecting him in return. One phone call, one private interview, and suddenly the conversation shifted from uncomfortable gossip to something that could shake the legal foundations of royal succession itself. Because Trevor reportedly revealed something connected to fertility consultations during their marriage in Toronto back in 2012. Private medical discussions. Questions about conception. Questions Trevor says he remembers clearly because he was physically there during those appointments as Meghan's husband. And when those details became connected to Archie and Lilibet, the internet exploded instantly. Not because people care about private fertility struggles, but because the British royal succession system was historically built around assumptions of natural birth and biological lineage. Suddenly, people were asking questions nobody inside the palace ever wanted publicly discussed. The panic inside royal circles reportedly reportedly became immediate, because this was no longer ordinary celebrity gossip. If any official challenge ever emerged regarding the circumstances of Archie and Lilibet's births, it could force constitutional discussions nobody alive has experienced navigating. Legal experts have quietly pointed out for years that succession law was never written for modern surrogacy complexities. That uncertainty alone is explosive enough. But what made this story emotionally devastating was the suggestion that Harry himself may have been unaware of parts of Meghan's medical history before their children were born. Harry reportedly walked into that confrontation believing he could still save the situation quietly. That is the heartbreaking part nobody can stop talking about. He was not allegedly looking for a war, he was looking for reassurance, for clarity, for one simple explanation that would make the entire nightmare disappear. Sources claim he sat across from Meghan asking her directly to deny Trevor's allegations completely so they could bury the story forever. But according to insiders, the response he received was not emotional devastation or confused heartbreak. It was anger. Immediate, sharp, calculated anger. And people close to Harry said that reaction shook him more deeply than the accusations themselves ever could. Because Harry allegedly asked for something incredibly simple: a medical confirmation, a private verification that could end the speculation permanently. Not for the public, not for the media, for him, for his peace of mind, for their marriage. But Meghan reportedly reacted as if the request itself was the betrayal. Sources describe a conversation that became ice cold within seconds. She allegedly accused Harry of siding with the same machine they had spent years fighting against together. She told him he was giving enemies exactly what they wanted. But Harry reportedly kept pushing because somewhere deep inside him, something had already started breaking apart. He was no longer just hearing accusations from strangers, he was hearing details from a man who had actually shared Meghan's life before him. A man who remembered things she never mentioned. A man whose timeline suddenly connected too many missing pieces together. And then came the line insiders claim Harry cannot mentally escape from. Meghan allegedly told him that if he continued demanding proof, the marriage was effectively over. Not because she was heartbroken, not because she felt insulted, but because she viewed the request itself as unforgivable. Sources say her tone during that exchange reportedly frightened Harry more than the words themselves. No tears, no panic, no emotional collapse, just cold control, like someone already prepared for this exact conversation long before it ever happened. And according to people familiar with Harry's emotional state afterward, that was the exact moment something inside him permanently shifted, because innocent people usually rush toward proof when their family is collapsing around them. That is what Harry reportedly could not stop thinking about afterward. Why not simply shut the rumors down instantly? Why respond with threats instead of transparency? Why make him feel guilty for asking questions about something this enormous? And suddenly, Trevor's old stories began replaying differently in Harry's head. The hidden social circles, the carefully managed narratives, the selective truths, the strange contradictions surrounding Meghan's past. Tiny details Harry once ignored were now allegedly returning like ghosts one by one. People close to the Sussex household claim the atmosphere inside their California mansion changed almost overnight after that confrontation. Silence, separate spaces, long periods without speaking. Harry reportedly wandering through a 16-bedroom estate looking emotionally shattered, while Meghan maintained a calm exterior that insiders described as almost disturbingly composed. That contrast reportedly terrified him, because for the first time since meeting her, Harry allegedly began wondering whether he had ever fully understood the woman he sacrificed everything for. Friends say he started revisiting old conversations with the royal family inside his mind. Warnings he once dismissed as cruelty suddenly sounded different when viewed through Trevor's perspective. Then came the phone call that has triggered massive speculation inside royal circles. Reports claim Harry privately contacted a family member in London for a conversation lasting more than an hour. Nobody publicly knows who received the call, but insiders insist the emotional significance of that moment cannot be overstated. This is the same man who publicly severed himself from the monarchy to defend Meghan against every accusation imaginable. He fought his own family. He attacked the institution. He burned bridges globally in her defense. And now, suddenly, quietly, privately, he was allegedly reaching back toward London in the middle of emotional chaos. That single phone call reportedly sent shockwaves through palace insiders because it symbolized something nobody thought would happen. Harry was no longer completely certain. And honestly, that uncertainty may be the most dangerous thing of all, because once doubt enters a marriage built entirely on absolute trust, trust and public loyalty, it infects everything. Every memory becomes questionable. Every story becomes re-examined. Every emotional moment becomes vulnerable to reinterpretation. People close to Harry claim he has allegedly started questioning whether Meghan strategically shaped entire parts of their relationship from the very beginning. The royal obsession, she denied. The carefully polished innocence. The outsider narrative. Even the timing of certain events now reportedly feels suspicious to him in hindsight. And the more he replays everything mentally, the worse the paranoia allegedly becomes. Meanwhile, the palace itself has reportedly remained eerily silent, and that silence is making the story feel even darker. Because when the royal family aggressively denies something, people at least know where the battle lines stand. But silence? Silence feels strategic. Silence feels cautious. And according to constitutional observers, nobody inside the monarchy wants to publicly touch questions involving succession law unless absolutely forced into it. The risk is too massive. The legal uncertainty too dangerous. If formal investigations ever emerged involving the legitimacy of succession rights tied to modern reproductive circumstances, the monarchy could face one of the most awkward constitutional crises in generations. And everybody knows it. But the deepest tragedy in all of this may still be Harry himself, because sources say he looks emotionally exhausted in ways people around him have never witnessed before. This was supposed to be the love story that saved him from royal misery, the marriage that protected him from isolation, the family that healed his trauma. Instead, he allegedly finds himself trapped inside endless suspicion, media warfare, collapsing trust, and questions he cannot emotionally escape. Trevor Engelson reportedly never intended to destroy the House of Sussex. According to insiders, he simply became tired of pretending his years with Meghan never happened. But in finally speaking honestly about the marriage he lived through, he may have unintentionally detonated the most devastating crisis Harry has ever faced.